Good day.
So my name's Kevin and I come from Oldham. It's, oh my God, it's a place you might have heard in the news recently when scientists announced that they'd identified the gene responsible for causing the obesity epidemic. Apparently she's the manageress at the Greg's Baker in the town centre. Oldham gets a bad press really, mainly because it's shit, but I quite like the place because if you do go to Oldham, you'll know you're in the town centre because you'll be surrounded by 15-year-old girls who are slightly overweight and with a pasty in one hand and a cigarette in the other. They're telling all the kids to fucking shut up. But, you know, so we do have some redeeming features. We've also got one of those new Metrolink lines, which is quite exciting, but I don't think the council have realised they've just made it a lot easier to get out of the place. So I live in a place on the outskirts of Oldham called Sandworth, which is a bit nicer than the centre. The centre's a bit rough and ready, really. And you know, at Sandworth, it's a collection of villages. It's quite leafy and a nice little place to live, really. And I wouldn't want you to think, just because we're out in the sticks, that we don't have many facilities, because we've just had a fancy new leisure centre, which has opened on the road over the tops towards Yorkshire. I say a leisure centre, it's actually just a sheep tied to a lamppost. It's very popular though, and before you start, I've not been. I'm not queuing for that long. And when you do live out in the sticks, you know, in a place like that, close-knit communities, you know, people take the piss and make jokes and say, oh, you know, when you get married in Saddleworth, are you still considered brother and sister? And I say, I don't know, Mother, that's why we're asking. We wanted to discuss it before we got engaged. But, you know, clearly there are some benefits traditionally to inbreeding, I would suggest. First of all, you get to keep all your money in the family, don't you? It means that you save on the cost of presents for in-laws at Christmas. And it means that women don't have to change their surname. Or even leave the house, really, come to think of it. But, you know, there will be some people out there who said there's some drawbacks as well, because clearly in a close-knit community, when everyone's into breeding, you're going to end up creating some fairly unique-looking individuals, aren't you? And, you know, when you do look a bit different to everyone else, if you stand out from the crowd, it can lead to bullying, can't it? And in the village next to me, absolutely everyone mercilessly just rips the piss out of the one person whose eyes are straight. So living in a place like Saddleworth, we are a bit stuck in a time warp, really, because, you know, fashion seems to have bypassed people. There's lots of people who still think it's fashionable to have a moustache. Although I just clocked you with one there, pal, sorry about that. Some of the fellas in Saddleworth have moustaches as well. And I can't really talk myself because in terms of fashion, my dress sense is a bit of a joke among my friends. Fashion disasters over the years are still fond in the memory of many of my friends. And I used to just put lots of effort into following the latest craze, as lots of people did, although even, I have to admit, I didn't predict that one where things were supposed to match. But my message as I left the house was also always that my motto was, if you feel good, you're probably looking good. Just don't be surprised when people say, what have you come as? And unfortunately, you know, it didn't help with the ladies, but I did my best. As a young man, I just wasn't very successful. I felt whatever I did, I just couldn't seem to live up to expectations and they always wanted me to sweep them off their feet and completely take the breath away. And I soon realised accidentally winning a girl doesn't count. My dancing technique, that didn't help either, because as a young man I wasn't very confident when I went on the dance floor. But I always knew it took a lot of rhythm to miss every single beat. So there was hope, wasn't there? My dancing didn't help get the ladies, so I thought, right, well, I'll have a look for a band. But in a small area with villages like Saddleworth, the only one that had me was a brass band. And it's not as easy as you might think to wink at potential groupies when you're marching with your cheeks puffed in the shadow of an overweight trombone player. And I wasn't very good at the instruments either. I couldn't seem to hit the right notes whatever I did. In fact, I once asked a girl if she wanted to make sweet music, and she said I could whistle for it. I had to admit that I probably couldn't. So, in terms of the ladies, you know, eventually I did manage to find someone. I just think it's a lesson to everyone that if you stand outside a nightclub at kicking out time for long enough, eventually the girl in your dreams will come gliding out, won't she? Well, I say gliding out, she was being carried by her friends, but you've got to take whatever you can get, haven't you? So now I'm happily married and I've got 3 kids, and I often reflect on the time of life when I got to do what I wanted with my time. And back then that was when I used to play rugby in my spare time, and I was pretty good, if I didn't say so myself. In my prime, people described me as a crowd pleaser, and they said that when I had the ball, they got the feeling either team could score. It's a bit of a rough man's game, isn't it? And I didn't like all that rough stuff. So I tended to avoid all the fighting and that kind of thing. And I remember this one time I got poked in both my eyes, and I went over to the touchline, and I said, "Coach, I'm going to have to come off. I can't see a thing." And he said, "Well, how do you know you're talking to me then? Get back on." So I don't know if you know much about rugby, but I played fullback, which means basically you stand right at the back, trying not to get hurt for most of the game. And I was really good at motivating the rest of the lads. When you be camped on your own line and everyone's up against it, and I'm saying, "Come on, you lot, come on, get out there. Come on, who's having it? Who wants it? Because I'm not fucking having it." And at fullback, you also have to catch that bomb, they call it, when they kick it right high in the sky. And I had a neat little technique for dealing with that. Whenever they put a bomb up, I just used to shout, "Winger, that's yours." A rugby joke, that, wasn't it? They're all rugby jokes, these, aren't they? Yeah. And then I finished now, so I do miss it because, it was a big part of my life. But the reason I had to retire was because the rest of the lads got a bit of a petition together and handed it to the chairman. And I do miss the team talks more than anything, because they were fantastic, some of them. And as you can imagine, rugby lads aren't the brightest people in the world. And there was this one coach, and we've been on a bit of a losing run. And he said, "Right, lads," he said, "I want you to get out there and rise like a pheasant from the ashes." And I put my hand up and I said, "Coach, I think you mean phoenix." And he said, "All right, smart ass. I knew it began with F." So I think I've probably done enough now. So thank you very much.
Fitzpatrick, everybody. Not a mention of science. Right, that was lovely. Thank you for that. We're going to move swiftly on to our final act for this half, and then there'll be time for you to go to the bathroom. If you're a gentleman and you want to do number 2, be careful. There's no locks on the toilets downstairs. Just a bit of housekeeping. And we'll have about 15-minute break. Yeah, about that. 15-minute break depends. If you're not here. We'll wait for you. So nobody's allowed to leave and go to another gig in the break, because we will all be here waiting for you to come back, even if you wait all day. Right, brilliant.